What's going on, guys? Welcome back to review and discussion for UnOrdinary episode 272. And this episode's a bit of a doozy, I can't lie. I cannot lie. So, this episode kicks off immediately where 271 ended. So, the Spectre agent's on top of the prison visiting Terrence. Now, after that, Terrence is alone by himself in his cell, and it definitely seems that Keon's ability has really taken a toll on him, much like it did John way back when. And we get to see more of kind of like how his ability really affects people around him, or victims of it, as Terrence starts remembering everything from his past with his abusive mother and getting picked on. He even screams after thinking about everything to get me out of here. And I gotta be honest, after a few more readings, I do kind of feel bad for Terrence going through this, having to repeat all these bad memories. Like with John, when we saw how much the readjustment facility affected him and still affected him and still kind of affects him to this day. I don't think that if John ran into Keon right now, I don't think, even after all the progress he's been making, I don't think he'd be okay with seeing Keon again. So, but while I do feel bad for Terrence after reading this episode a little bit more, I still fervently believe, fuck Terrence. So, but as Terrence is thinking about all that, water falls to the floor. And at first I thought it was him crying. I thought it was Terrence's tears. But it wasn't. It was coming from the pipes in the walls. And when I read that, we were all just like, holy crap. And it was the green-eyed agent from the rooftops as he forms from the water. Now, this guy is definitely a god-tier character, I would say. This guy's no joke, because this is another elemental type ability, much like Remy, and I guess to an extent Sarah and John. But definitely like with Remy's ability, lightning, it's an elemental type ability. And the reason why I really believe that this character is god tier is because this isn't just like manipulation or like control over an element. This is becoming that very element. This is him becoming water. He was, as we see later in the episode, he's able to control it and also become part of it. So this guy is definitely a god tier threat to everyone. We'll get to that later though. So, yeah. So, the agent, he forms. We never get his name, so I'm just going to refer to him as the Spectre agent. We also don't see the girl who was with him, so I still think that she was possibly tech, and doing something with with the cameras and everything, so they didn't get caught. So, the agent then asks Terrence how much information they've gotten out of him, and Terrence says he was able to stall while he could. So it seems like the person on the receiving end of Keon's ability has some level of control, as minimal as it may be, over what memories are replayed. So that's interesting to see there. So he does confirm to the agent, though, that they have gotten all the basics at least. But he says he'll give Orrin a full report once he's out. Unfortunately for Terrence, the agent tells him that he doesn't have time to get Terrence out of the prison. To which Terrence immediately kind of just jumps up like, I can fix this, like, don't worry, like, please, like, I'm not gonna squeal anymore. Terrence begins begging for a chance. But the agent begins to drown Terrence. Like I said, he has control over water too, in addition to becoming it. He just begins pooling water on Terrence's head, and Terrence begins to drown. And honestly, for as graphic as everything we've seen in UnOrdinary, this is kind of a fucked up situation, actually, because it is just someone being helpless, essentially, and like, not to the level of people being helpless against a fight against John, but like against actual death, against actually not being able to do anything. Because even then, the people who fight John, they still end up losing, but they still have some level of fight in them. They still have some way to, like, at least hopefully not get out going to the hospital. But no, Terrence is a cripple. I actually forgot that until now. In this moment, Terrence is a cripple. He can't use his ability. He can't try and hide or run from the guy. So he has no choice, but he can't do anything. So yeah, it is kind of messed up. This is the first main or important character death, I believe, as well, that we see happen, and it takes a while. And Uru shows the emotions that Terrence is going through while this is happening too. So the guy begins drowning Terrence, and he also tells him that he can't take the risk, but Oren says, "Thank you." Once again, I think Uru is definitely trying to show just how much of a piece of shit Oren is. And it's working. It's working. Like how it works with Keon, how it worked with Terrence. It's working. Terrence then begins reflecting on his past with Oren, saying that Oren wouldn't do that because they're like family. But before his body goes limp, Terrence just internally screams his name. But Terrence falls to the floor. His eyes are still open, but he's definitely unconscious. I'll cover this right after we get to this next part. So, at an undisclosed location and city, but definitely on a like top-rise penthouse kind of apartment place, we get a clear shot of Oren. He definitely doesn't look as much like Terrence as I originally thought in the last episodes we've been seeing him, like through the screens and through Terrence's memories, but I still do believe that he is Terrence's biological father. I'm still standing by that. Anyway, we see him standing outside of his window looking out at his window as villains usually do, thinking about Serafina and how much issue she's caused for Spectre and continues to cause. The agent from the prison then shows back up, stating that the target has been silenced. To which Oren just thanks him, and then the agent asks if there's anything else that Oren needs. And Oren replies, he wants Serafina dead. Not silenced, not taken care of. He full on states that he wants Serafina dead. Now, this is why I do think it's possible that Terrence may still be alive. Honestly, you guys know, it doesn't matter to me if Terrence is alive or dead. I just want him gone. I've wanted him gone. Terrence, I'm sorry you went out that way, but hey, I was rooting for it, I can't lie. But this is why I think it's because of Oren's wording specifically. When it came to Terrence, Oren said that he would have Terrence taken care of. The agent here confirmed that Terrence was silenced, but when it came to the matter of discussing and trying to get rid of Serafina, or at least out of the way, he did specifically say dead. So, I think it's definitely possible Terrence is still alive, just in a comatose state. And that honestly might add some sort of layer to the limitations of Keon's ability, because that's another thing. All of Keon's patient, again, this is kind of a stretch, but all the times we've seen Keon use his ability, it has been when people are awake. You could say that he even tries to get them to stay awake, like when he would slam John's head against the table, try to wake him up, shake him up a bit, get energy and adrenaline flowing back again. So maybe Keon does need a conscious person in order to use his ability and search through their memories, to recall their memories. So yeah, that's the bit with with Oren and Terrence. So the next day at school, because John is in his dorm, and he puts his copy of UnOrdinary, the written out version that William just gave him, puts it away in his drawer, and he gets out of bed, and he kind of stretches a little bit. He kind of arches his back a little bit because he's still sore from yesterday. So yeah, still bruised up. As he leaves his room, though, he runs into Blake, and Blake's even like, what happened? Like, did you get found out? Like, don't tell me you got found out, dude. And John just tells him, like, oh, this is from my dad. And when Blake hears that, it's a reaction similar to what Eisen had when meeting William, but the opposite. Because Blake then just sees William as like, ugh, this mean, abusive father, and he's just like, I did not think that your dad was like that. I guess he is. But it was funny. It was funny. So John then just asks Blake like what he's doing up so early, and Blake tells John that he has a meeting with the safe house to discuss possible improvements. John then does make the move to offer to teach everyone a bit of hand-to-hand combat for self-defense. And initially, this is something I picked up on my last reading. Blake kind of lights up at first. It's kind of like a moment of, really? But then he just plays it off like, huh, and he scratches his head like, like he's kind of confused and everything. But he tells John that he'll discuss it with everyone, so to see if they can set something up. We then immediately cut to after school after Blake after Blake leaves their dorm, and we cut to after school as John and Sarah are walking out, discussing being the hand-to-hand training sessions have already been approved. And John already begins thinking of how to plan for it, such as getting an empty room for space for everyone to practice, getting padded floors so people can't get hurt, and also states that he won't be able to handle everyone himself, so he'll need a co-teacher, to which Serafina gladly agrees. So that's awesome. And honestly, a point I just thought of, this is William having yet another major impact on the story unintentionally. He wrote UnOrdinary not knowing that the effect that it would have on the society. And he did recommend John to teach, or I guess Serafina recommended it if I'm remembering correctly, but William definitely agreed that John could do it to teach everyone hand-to-hand combat. But I definitely don't think William expected this sort of response to it. So after that, we head to the last scene of the episode, and kind of a major cliffhanger, honestly. So we cut to the last scene. Presumably, this is at the new cafe that Remy mentioned opening the previous day when she was going out with Blake and Eisen. So we go to No Do's Cafe, where it's their grand opening, and we see none other than Caden and Kuyo. So I was not expecting to see these two so soon, but it makes sense with the end of the episode. So Caden then tells Kuyo that he had been about studying with a chem whiz, Doc. Doesn't mention him specifically. And then he begins telling Kuyo about what he was taught while he was talking to Doc. Sarah and John then walk in, and Kuyo takes notice of her and points to Caden's cousin, asking if he's gonna go talk to her. And Caden just brushes it off. Caden doesn't fumble on his words or anything. He just immediately thinks, and all he says is like, no, I'm not going to deal with her. I already deal with her enough. So Kuyo sees their uniforms and is reminded of his time at Wellston, saying like, oh man, that takes me back. And Caden even asks Kuyo about it, and Kuyo says things were fine until his last year when the old headmistress retired, and in that year when Ray was king, the school was a mess. Now this got me thinking. We don't know if this is either to Vaughn's involvement or Ray's reign as king. It did not mean to make that a pun, or if that was one, but he doesn't confirm why. So this does make me curious if Kuyo can be trusted. I do still think that Kuyo is a good guy now, but it is kind of interesting that, that's what he thought. But also, Arlo, Ray's most faithful and loyal follower, his heir to the throne, Arlo also thought that while Ray's intentions were good, it definitely caused a lot of chaos within the school. It was a problem. It shouldn't have been ran that way. So there we go. But I am still curious if he can be trusted, and if he and Ray really were friends, like when he told Blake when he met him. So, John and Sarah, they order their drinks. Sarah confirms that, No Dough's Cafe is not as good as Wubba Boba, so hell yeah, Wubba Boba team for life. So, Caden watches the two of them leave, and he wonders why Sarah's just wandering around without her ability. And it makes sense. He probably definitely knows that Sarah is still a target for Spectre, that they're keeping an eye on her to some extent, because we see someone with green hair, presumably the agent from Love in Prison, begin to follow her and John. And the episode ends off with Caden just looking at him beginning to follow them with a question mark, thinking about it. He's definitely thinking. So, yeah, that's where we leave off. A lot of people have been speculating that Uru will kill Sarah in the next episode. I really hope Uru doesn't do that. I don't think that Uru would do that. I mean, John is the main character of UnOrdinary, but Sarah is the poster child of the series. She is the poster character. So I don't think that Uru is going to kill off Sarah. And I don't think that we're going to get another comatose state or anything like that, because, again, going back to the cripple arc stuff, that's already kind of been done, and it would be really redundant at this point. I really don't want another repeat. What I think is more likely to happen is Caden to tell Kuyo that they need help. And while Kuyo because we know that Caden is only an elite tier. We know that Caden isn't that strong. But he could, if the guy is distracted, he could get them out in time to get them, to a safer location. And who knows? In this next episode, we could actually maybe get confirmation of what Kuyo's ability and ability level are as well, because I definitely do think that it's possible that Caden is going to be, or Kuyo is going to be the one holding off this Spectre assassin. But who knows? We're just going to have to wait and see tonight, or tomorrow, by the time we're recording this. Tonight for you guys when you see this, though. But yeah. What do I want to give this episode? I will give this episode a flat 8. Last episode was a 8.5. This episode, I think, is a flat 8. A lot of really good things, but, no William anymore. Not really some, sweet moments or anything, like that on the scale of what last week was. But there's definitely a lot of information drops here as well compared to previous episodes, too. So, yeah. Definitely still a great episode, though. Definitely a great episode still. Yeah. Let me know what you guys thought down below. I will see you guys back here tonight for episode 273 reaction. So, as always, guys, see you, Space Cowboy.